Um, please use the Discord audio, not the not the stream audio, because the stream will be out of sync then. So it's better to talk on
Yeah.
Discord. Okay, and let me give you a little more gain on the on your mic. Please say something.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah, going better. I think it is good. Um, Let me start on YouTube as well because I didn't so far. My mouse so slow. That's strange. Hmm. I need to I need to change my mouse settings. It's pretty slow.
Yeah.
Still too slow. Oh, looks better. Yeah, that looks that looks pretty nice. Maybe we'll give it a couple of minutes to see whether people catch up with my notifications.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I saw that I was looking a little bit at one of your streams from the other day where you were working with the canvas. You started working with the canvas. I didn't get too far into it, but
I didn't get too far into it either. Um, it is, I have, the last game that I coded was in the year 1990. So that's 35 years ago. And that was plain C. And I do not have any experience with Canvas and WebGL and all of these output techniques in JavaScript. That's why I'm especially interested in your framework as well. Maybe I could do something with it.
it's a bit. I mean, a bit might be a bit over engineered. I don't defer. I mean, it's. I think that the game that you're. I actually I can hear. I'm hearing feedback from your speakers. It's a bit.
It's
It's a bit problematic.
Can you still hear it?
Um, let me see. I think that's better. I think that there might be settings too in Discord that will kind of reduce the background noise too. So if you want to have your speakers up a bit
Yeah,
more.
I think let me check that. I have OBS open here, of course. Um, um, what do I have? Filters. I have some noise gate.
I think that it's
Uh, Noise
I think it's
gate.
fine.
Let's say I see what you
Okay.
still have. You still have feedback?
No, I don't think so. Well, a little bit, but I think it's just coming from your speakers into the mic. So that that's all. It's not terrible. Um, and it's infrequent now. So
Maybe slow gate a bit.
okay.
Okay, test.
Yeah, you sound fine. So
Okay, that seems to be fine. Seems to be
okay.
fine.
Uh, yeah, I think as far as the system I'm using, the big thing that I wanted to do with my project is implement entity component system, which I mean is it's a nice way to um, build like larger scale games, but it might be overkill for what you're doing. It's the interaction with the canvas is kind of like not really that core to my to the engine itself. It's just kind of like it's like I can swap that out with using DOM elements if I wanted to, like what you were doing originally.
Yeah. Um, well, you told me you were interested in what problems I am trying to solve with my system, what the use case for it is, so to say.
Yeah, what is a micro we could start from the beginning. Um like what is a micro component
Okay.
and uh how
Uh,
would one use one?
let me start with what you with what problems you have if you use modern frameworks like React, Angular, things like that. Uh, First, you have a giant ecosystem. That is something that you probably do not want to have if you want to just test out something, have a quick solution, do some rapid prototyping, things like that.
Okay.
Um, Also, with big frameworks, you have the problem that nowadays in your company, uh, lots of people require you to be able to do all the AAA frameworks. Like you should best be able to use to do React, Vue.js, and Angular. That's the most common requirements for a job. Also, of course, you only need one at a time in a project.
Okay.
Okay, that's one thing. On the far other end of development, um, you have vanilla JavaScript. Vanilla JavaScript, um, vanilla JavaScript, of course, doesn't help you with anything. That's why it's just a language. Especially what you do not have is a modularization concept for functionality. So, looking at it from both sides, what would be, I can tell you about the history a bit later, but looking at it from both sides, what would be the best way to go to get results uh, fast, first, and second, uh, get results in a cross framework way. Uh, that is what I was working on for 21 years. And you look like you have a question.
It just seems so. What you're trying to say is it feels like your solution is an unopinionated way to rapidly prototype a project, and you can kind of decide later on if you want to implement a framework. Once you've got the prototype kind of in a working state.
Yes, um, that's one of the options. What you can also do is if you have a framework and you want to bring it back to easier handling, like you have a React site and you want to step by step migrate it to a less opinionated technology, and you can do that also with my framework. The way it's being done, I will tell you soon. Um, for now, it's only about the theoretical background that I have.
Okay.
In the beginning, uh, in the beginning, uh, I started this frameworks. I told you framework or library. Let me let me say it's a library. It's not, it's also a framework, but most of all, it's a library.
Okay.
I started this in 2004 when a customer called me up and asked me whether I can give him Excel as a web application back in
Okay.
2004. And the adventurous guy in me said yes, and I said it aloud to the customer.
No.
Now, if you look at the JavaScript scene of that time, uh, of course, there was nothing even remotely resembling application structure. There was almost no modularization. The tool landscape at that time for front end was jQuery, Prototype, MooTools,
Hmm.
and Dojo. These were the four that were competing for front end. Um, of course, every programmer loves to do his own thing. I started a lot. I started to have a lot discussions with John Razik. You know him?
No.
John Razik is the inventor of jQuery.
Right. Right.
So I was looking at jQuery. Um, I loved the engine. This was in the beginning. It was much like document query selector and document query selector all, an engine for the DOM, and with functionality to modify the DOM, as easy as that.
Right.
So I liked that. That was very good. But what I didn't like is that you needed to, that you had no way to kind of modularize your your application. So I parted ways with the jQuery team, and I said the next thing to do is have an application library. And then I thought about how to do it. And I came up with web components. So version one of my framework was a web component uh, framework. I use framework and library interchangeably here. Yeah, so
Right.
don't mind. What I didn't have was a structure for a more sophisticated application, like like Excel would be.
Right.
Be- because Excel clearly it's a table that contains of cells, and all this pretty loud screams objects. And now here's some reveal. All DOM elements are objects.
Right.
Yeah? So what would you like to do if you have the DOM like div, span, whatever, and you want to attach functionality to those DOM nodes? For example, a table cell. You would have
You
to
could.
you would have to attach
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
You would have to attach it. And that was the idea about microcomponents. I attached the functionality of the DOM node in question directly to the DOM node. And in the beginning, that was only simple web components. So you could define a DOM node and you could attach one functionality to it. But in the progress of all those rewrites that I had with that library, I found out that I wasn't thinking far enough. So the next development steps were being able to attach multiple uh, components, and these are the microcomponents. That's the microcomponent idea. To have functionality, which is instances of classes collected inside a DOM node. And that way, this worked in 2007, 2008 or so. That was way before the original web component proposal, way before that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, but it was even more sophisticated than what they came up with later, because the proposition for a DOM web component only allows for an extension of the HTML element. So it is one class, and all the rest would be your own type of composition.
Right.
So, but what I already had was multiple functionalities in one DOM node. So I was a bit ahead of the crowd there. I kind of still am, I hope one could say. Um, so now, from that theoretical point, you imagine a page, whatever kind of page, and whatever way it is created, like Angular, React, or something, or even server-side rendering. Imagine the DOM structure being printed out on a piece of paper in front of you, and then you put flags on the DOM node, and written on the flag you have those elements. You have a second layer, like 3D above, hovering above it. You have a second layer of elements that no framework does see. It's not visible to frameworks, except via direct DOM access. I will tell you later.
Okay.
So when the web component specification came out, it was a laugh for me, because all I did is I made a 60-liner in my code that allowed for web components to comprise of my little micro components. It's just another DOM node in the end.
Right.
Yeah. So the implementing web components in my system was a laugh, so to say. Um, now, and now let's get back to the main functionality. Um, because my basic idea was I wanted to have a library that does only the basics. It's no abstraction. It should be something like a Swiss knife.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to carve a totem pole with it, but you can easily carve a stick, you know. But many sticks make a totem pole. So
Right. Okay.
if I was able to have those little sticks being carved out and then move it to whatever framework you want to put it in without interference, then I would have done the right thing. That, of course, is my own humble opinion. Now, I'm
Right.
just talking about the view that I have as a coder to what I'm doing. And suffice to say, I kind of did it. Yeah, I finished the API stable. The API is stable as of last Sunday, and it does and it does only a couple of things. First, it allows you to attach micro components to DOM nodes. This is something you can do in simple JavaScript programming, and it works with plain HTML sites also, without using a framework, anything else. Okay, what can you are as well allowed to construct a web component that you can just move in your page. And then what should those web components have as functionality? First, you would love to have state. I have
Yes.
state. And you can
Okay.
bind that state to a DOM template. In my system, it works like you define the template as a string. You have, in curly brackets, you have placeholders. And if I define an observable object, you can directly link it to the DOM. That's number one-way binding. This, number two is you would like to have that extended. You like to have an observable that you can link to form inputs so that the object represents the state of the inputs of the form. And from both sides, you should be able to change it. So when the form changes because you typed, it should be represented in that object. Other than that, if the object changes, it should be represented in the DOM.
Okay.
So that's two-way binding. And since form objects in my programming are observables also, you can also bind them to the DOM, not to the input fields, but to placeholders. So you can distribute your data, your form data, for further use. That's number two. Let me see what I missed. Let me go to the library. That's right here. Okay, we have web components. We have state. We have form handling. And then we have communication. Communication in my system is just an add-on to custom events. But they bubble in a different way. While custom events use normal DOM bubbling, my custom events bubble directionally. So I can trigger an event on the micro component, the DOM element it is in, and then tell it to bubble upwards, that is towards root.
Right. Okay.
I can also tell it to trigger downwards, that is to the inner DOM. So what I can do with that, I have a how do you call it, decoupling. If I do not have to address the component directly, I just send events off, and if there is no component, there is no error. This is how
Okay.
this is how components can interact with each other without a memory leak or side effects. Okay, and then at the end there is some small. I mentioned it here. There is an auto-loading mechanic that allows, if you put that on, you have a normal website, you load the library and you start auto load, then it will grab, for example, every web component that's not defined, load it from a JavaScript file. Like if you have a tag name like my dash component, it would load from /my/component.js. Pretty straightforward. which means you would have the source code in the page in the hierarchy in the HTTP docs, so to say. Yeah? So this is to make it especially easy for server-side rendered normal DOM to implement some little functionality, whatever it is. The way I do it is this is if you look at the site, this is about how to attach a microcomponent. This you can do with this command, and this is the HTML element. This is the name you want to later find it under.
Okay.
And this is the instance of the class you have defined. A microcomponent almost always is an instance of a class, but the microcomponent container in a DOM node can literally take anything. You can simply use it as a hash object also. Yeah, as a repository, so to say.
Okay.
Let's stay with the standard ways. This is a kind of next level. Yeah, the standard way is you
Don't
have
blow my
classes.
mind right yet.
Huh?
I said, don't blow my mind quite yet.
Yeah. Um, okay. When you have a microcomponent in your DOM, then you have an attribute data underscore data dash MC, which only tells you when you look at the DOM that there are microcomponents in there. The system uses that to do its bubbling. And you, when you debug it, can look up DOM nodes and you see in the DOM structure directly this element has one or more microcomponents in it. Yeah.
Okay.
So the benefit you have from that, let me make that a bit. The benefit you have from that, debugging is that easy with my system because you can inspect all of those instances of your functionalities. You can inspect them directly. You can even interact with them directly while the site is running. Yeah? Imagine you have all the code in the DOM in readable form. You see the inner structure of the website while it is displayed. I will show you so you can see.
Yes.
Okay, let me open. Oh, just a second. Put something here. Now that's better. Let me open a browser. Okay, and then I need to run the program, of course.
Yeah.
So, what do I want? So I want. Okay, that's the test program. I go to start a server, and I should now be able to look at the test program. By the way, I will give you a link. I will give you a link in chat where you can go to that site directly.
Perfect.
Just let me do that first. Um, oh, wrong. Okay. Bugger edit, make bigger, make this a bit bigger, so you can see what we are looking at. Okay, and let me give you the link. Because localhost won't.
Right.
Um, I'll give you the link to the repository. Right here. You should be able to access it. Do you see it?
Yeah.
If you scroll down a little, there is a link, manual testing, in the status section, pretty much on top.
Let me open up chat.
First is microcomponents, then there is status. And there is a link named manual testing.
Trying to get. There we go. I was trying to get chat to open up.
I can hardly hear you right now.
1 second. You put it in our in the.
In the Twitch chat. I put it in the Twitch chat, the link. I can send it via Discord as well.
No, send it in the Twitch chat one more time. I just didn't have it expanded, so it didn't pop up for some reason.
Ah, okay. Sending it again.
There we go.
Okay.
All right.
So now if you scroll down a little to status, you see manual testing.
Okay. All right. 1 second. Manual test.
Okay, just open this page and let me continue with my Twitch presentation. If you look
Sure.
at it, you see this data dash MC property
Yeah.
attribute. Sorry, yeah. If I now go, for example, to test.grandparent, I can put this in console as a global variable. So what can I do? I have this tag here. You see, that's the tag. And then this tag has a property. That's the only interference with the DOM that I have. That is like a hash object that contains all those functional instances that you have. So what I can do is I can simply put it on the console, and then I see test grandparent. Okay, there is one microcomponent in there. This microcomponent contains the basic code for a web component. Yeah. So if you have a web component and the functionality is comprised of this inner microcomponents, then of course you need one that represents what you would normally code in a web component with unconnected and whatever events there are. But in addition to that, it can have many more. Let me now open this. And you see it has a target property. This target property is a back reference to the DOM element. So normally, if you have a property that is, you have an object that has a property named XYZ, and this in itself is an object. This inner object doesn't know where it is placed. Cannot know that. So when you create a web component, you always hand over a microcomponent. You always hand over the target. So the DOM knows that there are microcomponents in there, and you can address them, and the microcomponent knows where the DOM is. It's
So does that mean if you were to expand your target, you would end up being able to recursively just traverse back and forth,
yes,
and you would just endlessly open it up?
yeah, of course. Um, but this is without leak, because if you delete it, there is no external reference. So you can delete the DOM node and nothing is hanging because all the functionality is in the DOM node. And
Okay.
and this way you have no memory leaks by design,
That's
except
pretty
if
cool.
you do timeouts, things like that that you should clean off later. No,
Right. Okay, so something that's going to trigger at some point, and then that DOM node itself doesn't exist
whatever you
anymore.
have, if you have closures with variables to elements that don't exist anymore, yeah, okay, but this is JavaScript knowledge, I figure.
Right. This is that's a programmer problem, not a
That's a
library.
program, not my program, not my
Right.
problem, so to say. Yeah. Um. Okay. So the basic idea is having multiple elements inside one DOM node. And also to be able to do this without web components, only on normal DOM. Let me show you an example with multiple um, multiple microcomponents, like this button here, the one that's blue right now, that one.
Okay.
I store it as a global variable. I go to console. I have that button. I have temp2 dot underscore MC as always, dot. And now let's see what we have here. We have underscore placeholders, which I do not explain right now. We have the main my button class that is just attached to that button. And we have a translator. Now, this is a mixed functionality. All those MCs know the DOM.
Hmm.
And so all of them can access the same DOM. So what I can do right here is translator dot language data dot language uh, now you have to look at the button.
Right.
The property language of the um, translator object is an observable.
So is that a setter, or is it
An
is that
observable is in fact a getter setter combination. Um,
okay?
this works with objects and with native values. In this case, it's a string. And if you change it,
Right.
simply by changing it, uh, you you trigger a callback. And those observables are pretty mighty as a functionality because they allow you to write very complex rule engines and business process engines, logic engines.
Right.
Because I mean, imagine what is a business process? That is something, some object, so to say, with an internal state, and the next step to do is defined by what the status is or what to wait for, you know. So you can use microcomponents as tasks inside a project. You put in data, it automatically, because the input field is an observable, it triggers automatic processing, and then it sets output fields. Maybe it sets the error field, maybe it sets the result field. You know, they kind of work like a promise, and you can stack them. You can I could, for example, write a graphical editor to edit complex rule sets that follow just by following the data flow.
Right.
Yeah. So I have absolute 100% freedom of how complex my program will become. But, and that's the nice part, the code for it will always stay simple because those microcomponents are handled as black boxes. They have a defined interface, what goes in, they have a defined output, what comes out. I don't even care what functionality is in there as long as it works.
Mm-hmm.
So they are without any context. And now let's, I mean, if you look at that picture, uh, you see what the strength of this system is, because whatever framework work you prefer, you can import this library and you can kind of make a second layer above your framework that your framework doesn't even know that that executes some functionality and maybe mitigates a problem that you have with your framework. Let me give you an example. Let's think about React. React, I do not know whether the problem still exists, but React had a big problem with re-rendering, with optimizing the re-rendering. When it became too heavy, when the site became too big, it became slow. And the reason for that was that that you had to carry through states through all the objects. And if any one of these changed, the whole tree would be re-rendered. So, and maybe multiple times, by the way.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I
so,
I'm very familiar with React.
okay, React has a lot of functionality that is made to mitigate the problems that React by definition has, by the code idea that's behind it, you know, the virtual DOM.
Yep.
So uh, things like memoize, use memo, sorry, I'm not a React specialist, things like that, you know. These are optimization techniques that you need because React is a kind of clumsy in parts. Personal opinion.
Yes.
Yeah. I do not want to
Yeah.
say anything bad about React. But now, if you step into problems like that, in any framework and your framework doesn't help you, what do? You're completely left out in the open without a blanket.
You just go back to solving your problem with vanilla JavaScript.
Okay, and this is where my system fits in because I just attach it. I mean, you have useRef in useRef in React. Okay, if you have useRef, you have a DOM node. If you have a DOM node, you can attach a microcomponent. And if you have several DOM nodes with several microcomponents, they can talk to each other. So you have a functionality that is completely decoupled from your original functionality, but is still able to interact with it. Because of course, if you have a state in React, you can hand it over to a microcomponent. You can crisscross data between the elements. So
Does that mean that you can use the can you hook into your state changes, your observables, to update React state as well?
yes, if you have a if you all you have to do is observe it. You create the observable, then you have, for example, this.data. And then you say this.data observe and give it a callback. And that callback, because you defined it in your React code, has access via closure to your state.
And you only do that once. So would you end up doing that in like something like a use effect? Because if you did it in like the base of the component, the React component, then it would
Anything is
render.
possible. You can use events, then you can handle them once, you can handle them all the time, custom events, you know, and you can deselect them. You can do off, on an event, much like jQuery.
Okay.
Uh, you have all the options. You have all the options, and because in any framework you have your own code with your own closure, your own scope. But since you can include microcomponent code, this scope is uh, is absolutely clear.
I think this. I think I like the idea of using this by itself in a way more than more than mucking around with a large framework. In from what I'm seeing so far.
That was what it was initially intended for, you know. But it is a nice effect of my programming that you can use it anywhere. If you have a functionality, let's say make the border red or a DOM node, if you have that functionality, you can use it anywhere in any other framework. So, for example, the code that I sent you about this repeatable sequences, you know, if you would like to have that in your game engine, and I want to have it in my system, I write a micro component, repeatable sequence, and you can instantiate it, and then directly get a new sequence all the time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
once you have done it, you can use the same component, code identical, in React, in Angular, in Svelte, in Ember, wherever. So, and and all this is just the basic ideas. If you think about, if you wrap your head around what I'm doing there, then you stumble upon things that you didn't. I mean, it happens to me that I stumble over functionality in my system that I didn't even think about, but still exists.
Right. It's a testament to how unopinionated your code must be.
And there's one more thing about it. Um, Give me a second. Also on the library page in the GitLab, I have a typedoc reference of the whole thing. Now look at this. This here is all there is. That's the whole library. No more.
That was my next question is what's the bundle size?
I think it's a bit below 15 kilobytes. I guess I figured a bit below 15 kilobytes, and it's not minified. This is still readable code.
Wow. So
So
I
let me let
consider a hello world of a framework is what I consider like I would call it like the to-do list app is kind of like the hello world of a framework in my opinion. How long do you think it would take to implement to-do list in just micro components that allows you to add a to-do, edit a to-do and delete a to-do?
I think I would. I mean, depending on how complex you want to make it, but um, I think if you use the easiest way, you import the module, microcomponents module, you make it all global, which is of course not the required way, but you can do it, you know. Um, and then you start coding. Minutes, an hour, I don't know. I mean, um, I'm still in the process of making skeleton projects for certain applications, like standalone
Right.
components that you can deliver to a customer. Yeah, but I can show you, for example, the bundled code for this. Um, Wait, let me show you. Wait, I have to start something else, I guess. Let me look it up. Okay. Now I have the start of my game programming. It's very, very early. It's just putting something on the canvas, you know?
That was the other thing I was going to get to eventually is um, attaching the context um, rendering functionality, right? The context interaction, like how you draw on the canvas. You can attach that directly to the canvas then
Yes, of
as
course.
that's pretty awesome. That sounds pretty cool.
So, by the way, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. Yes, of course you can, because it's a DOM element.
Right.
Um, okay, um, let me open the debugger. Look at the sources. See what we got here? That's a not so minified version. Can I show that? Open in a new tab. This is the not so minified version of the whole system.
it looks like the only minification of it is removed comments if there are any, and
Yeah.
uh, uh,
Okay, and this already displays a level of this arcanoid here. This already does that. Here you see it a bit better. Oh, I'm sorry. Um, oh, whatever. Um, I was clicking on the wrong. Oh, okay. This is all library, and this is the code I have so far. This is the levels. So the library is 500 lines for what I've got, and there is the code for the levels. There is the code for block, withdraw, and constructor, and here is the main game. On connected, it's a web component. On connected, it does all its canvas stuff. Then it calls draw level. This of course shouldn't be in here. There should be a levels a level class, you know, that in turn ingests the level definitions. You know,
right.
maybe from a text file, another object, something like that. You there is so many things you can do with that. It's unbelievable to me. I still stumble over options that I never thought about. Like you said it right away. Canvas is canvas. Why not attach it directly to the canvas?
Right. Well, that's what I assumed you were going. See, I didn't get too far into your stream where you were working on this, and I assumed you were going to be attaching, the functionality of the canvas context 2D to the canvas as like part of the micro component.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, this is something I didn't even think about. I could I could write a 2D canvas extender that where I fill in my own functionality, not only the blocks but missing functionality from the canvas
Right.
without without even changing the original object. So without any side effects to other libraries that use it also.
Now, your micro components are attached to to DOM elements. But
Yes.
you said that's not a necessity.
Um,
For,
I said it the other way around. The basic functionality is that I can attach elements, whatever type. Even I could even attach native values if I wanted to the DOM element. A big problem of the DOM is that you do not have a direct method of attaching data to a DOM element.
right.
Whatever kind of data that is, whether that's an instance of a class, an observable, a form, well, something like that, you can do it. And this is what my library allows you to do. You can add anything to the DOM, even using plain JavaScript. It all it does, it gives you that repository, that underscore MC property, where you can put in anything.
I'm trying to I'm trying to think about the project at hand that you have and um, utilizing your micro components, but with within objects in the game instead of DOM elements. Is that something that the microcomponent could solve is, you know how you manage state and all that within your within the microcomponents.
Uh, rephrase, what do you want to do? What do you want the functionality to be?
So let's say your block that's in your game that you hit.
Yes.
Could that itself could that itself be a microcomponent,
Yes, of
even
course.
though it's not a DOM element?
Yes, of course, it can.
So in that way, you could create you could create microcomponents and and harness all the functionality of your library, but
Yes,
those are actually acting on um, objects of the game and not anything to do with the DOM at all, except
yes,
for the fact they're attached to the canvas.
yes, of
That
course.
sounds really cool.
That was my first approach. My first approach was to have that level as DOM elements, you know. But then I found out that doing animations on them. First, I wanted to do CSS animations on them, but for example, moving the ball that you have to play with, like here, you know, moving the ball and the paddle. This requires complete re-rendering, and this goes at a horrible cost regarding the frame times. So on my computer, it was stuttering even with a 0 millisecond delay. That's why I pretty pretty fast moved on to the canvas.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. When I first started doing things like trying to make games in the browser, that's exactly what I did. I created HTML elements, and I was using absolute positions in margins and things
Yeah.
like that. So
It's it's unbelievably bad. I mean, but I needed to see it to go to the next step. I mean, I could have started with Canvas two-dimensional, but I wanted to see how bad it is before. So, for
right,
example,
well, because your game is very simple, and if you can get away with doing it in the DOM with the DOM tree and all that, then I could see that being a perfectly viable solution. But you had to recognize that it wasn't going to perform well
yeah, that's
for
something that I told my father, and he wasn't happy about it. He told me, "Son, I always give you advice. You know that my advice is good. Why don't you do it?" Uh, and I told him, it's not that I don't believe you. I need to feel the pain.
right.
Yeah, that's one of the ideas behind it. But nowadays, if I look at that, I mean, can you believe me that I'm almost burned for every project that involves React, Angular, something like that?
No, I totally I actually could see myself reaching for your library um, for most projects, and not just for prototyping, but for the complete project. Just for the fact that it's it's not forcing me to it's not forcing me to learn how to how to get past the struggles that these big bloated libraries have, right? Like you can't just innately know how to handle re-rendering and all that kind of stuff with React. You have to learn it, and a lot of times you have to learn it the hard way. You know,
Yes. Let
and
me,
and a, if you're not doing some sort of huge thing, then it's very bloated.
yeah, let me give
It's
you,
overkill.
let me give you the link to this little game. It is also public. This will give you a framework for things to look at, you know.
Hmm.
And since since you can npmi the requirements, you always have the type documentation with it, so you can run an ad hoc server on the node modules, two birds, and then library. You know.
Right.
Uh, so give me a second. I will give you that link also. I think I do not have to tell you about npmi because I do not have a lot of links in there, or description. I just started it, as I said.
Hmm.
Uh, um, Here you have it. That's the game. You can start, so to
Okay.
say, with that game, and from looking at the assets directory, you see the HTML,
Yep.
and in the source path, you see the source code. So you can git clone that. You can even follow the. You can use it. You can use it for yourself to try and test something. If you look at the code, I think you are doing that now. You
Yeah.
can ask. Yeah, I'll just let you uh, have a glance at it. By the way, being German, I need to hydrate myself. And you know how Germans hydrate?
How do they do that?
Beer.
Beer.
It's weekend.
All right.
You cannot imagine how happy I was that this is basically done from the
Yeah.
libraries
I.
side. There were, during that 20 years, there were so many nights that I couldn't sleep because I didn't solve a problem. Now, now it's done. That's unbelievable. It's still unbelievable to me. I sleep so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now the key is you need to you need to uh, use it in projects, and um, you need to show people how what what you did like today, and you need to have some place for people to learn about it and see it in action.
Mm, I have an enterprise, a multi-container enterprise solution for editing the Swiss construction service catalog. That is 50 million records. This allows for everything from digging tunnels to building houses, with everything that's required for that. I wrote this
Wow.
for 2.5 years, and it was a failed startup, never got anywhere. But the code still exists. Unfortunately, it's the old framework, two birds version 8. And so I would have to refactor it completely, which is a good idea, I have to say, which is a very good idea to do. Um,
Hmm.
but the whole application, being able to batch edit a 17 level tree 17 levels. Imagine that on one screen. Um, and controlled in a very good way. Um, this whole application, I figure, I'm not sure about it, but I think it is around 250 kilobytes with the library.
Wow.
And this
Oh
is the
wow.
old library that was much bigger, that was 35 kilobytes. Packed. I mean, I didn't even try. Let me try something.
Okay.
Um, Let me try something. We are looking at this library, and I've shown you the code, and it was not minified because minification in Webpack can produce errors. But let's assume it works. I enabled the minification. I rebuild it. And now let's have a look at the result. So the Arcanite game minified has 5 kilobytes so far. 5 kilobytes.
5 kilobytes.
Let's see whether it works. Maybe it doesn't work because the minification broke again. But if we are lucky, let's see. Well, I didn't even see it render. It went so
No, I
fast.
didn't either. Yeah.
I mean, 5 kilobytes, and that's the basics of a game. Now, I think when I'm done with that little game, it may be 20 kilobytes, and more than that, you can grab this code, put it in your website, and simply add this web component. And you have the complete game in your website without external references. I could do all
Right.
the images as base 64, you know. I can
Well, you could even compose your you could even get rid of images altogether and just construct them with the the context rendering
yeah,
2D methods, draw rect and all that.
yeah. That's what I'm doing right now. Let's see what it leads me to, you know. But but imagine that you have like 20 kilobytes of code and a complete game for everybody to put in his own website.
What is React bundle size right now? Let's see.
I think 1.5 megabytes for the boilerplate. Maybe they, if they are good, they have optimized it. But I think it's you will always end up at 1.5 megabyte at least.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too is um the speed is super important anymore. People really want, they want load times to be fast, and that's the big problem is
It it,
if you
it
if it doesn't require React because your application doesn't need all that functionality, then your your page loads and things like that are going to be slow for no reason.
I mean, I could write a 2D canvas lib now, you know, that you can simply attach to your to your canvas that does beautiful things, whatever it is you regard beautiful, you know. And on the other hand, if you have a whole page comprised of these components, of course you can import your framework into any web component. And that's the beauty of it. The less functionality you have, the less can go wrong.
Right.
And I mean, there is a there is a German article about my framework somewhere. It's the code has fallen out somewhere somehow, but this is just like a rodeo. Yippee-yi-yay, you know? Yippee-yi-yay, the gate opens and off you go. Whatever. If it doesn't work for you, don't use it. If it works for you, look at you. You know, it takes a minute to test it, whether it works for you.
I I think that it'd be cool to, if I ever, so with my little project I'm working on right now, if I decide to create an editor, it would be cool to use micro components for the editor.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, this kind of modularization and portability you do not get anywhere. I'm sure about that. Even if you use lit, svelte, things like that, you don't get this type of functionality. Yeah, it's impossible to get it anywhere else.
Well, that's pretty awesome so far. I think that I think I'll probably on my own time I'll explore and try to, like I said, I think I'd probably try to write a to do list app because that's kind of the for me that's that hello world of application development
Yes,
because it's such a simple concept, um, but it can grow in complexity as far as you want to take it. But it's simple, something that should I should be able to write something like a to do list app, very simple one, in a matter of 25-30 minutes. Um, and I think with your framework that shouldn't be an issue at all to get something like that done in the same amount of time with a lot less bloat than trying to do the
that's
same
what
thing
I
in React.
expect. But of course, you need to get accustomed to what it works like, what it feels like. You know, you need to get a bit of finger muscle memory for that. But once you have done the first component that has kind of all the functionality, um, I mean, just the to-do app, it has observables, it has form elements, it has microcomponents, then of course. So you have already spanned 90% of what my library can do.
Well, that's yeah, that's kind of the beauty of a to-do list app, and why I feel that it's the hello world of app development is you get to cover a lot of the core functionality of creating some sort of interactive application without the complexities of all the logic that applications tend to have. It's very simple logic. I want a list of to-dos and I need to be able to add and remove and edit, and edit isn't even a requirement. So you just the ability to add and remove uh, items is kind of the core, the core of a to-do list app. And if you can get that done, and it looks like it could be done in a very minimal amount of code with your framework, which is really cool.
What I would like to see, or what would be really nice, is maybe that's versus stream. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
that's a stream that you could do.
yeah, I think I might end up doing something like that. I will familiarize myself a bit more with the library so I'm not fumbling around with it on stream. But yeah, definitely implementing uh, the to-do list, I think I would what I would end up doing is implementing it twice. One in React and one with micro components, and kind of go over the differences, the strengths and weaknesses of either one of them.
I do not think you have to implement the React part of it, because there is this to-do MVC project that already has the to-do app in React ready.
Yeah. It would be more of like a um like the idea of it is to build it yourself in and experience
The
the
difficulties
um
you
the
run into.
difficulties of right, and and seeing like the the simple struggles of React, such as the re-rendering, right? A naive approach, um, and one of the problems that you were talking about is re-rendering the entire DOM essentially, just because state changes, right? So you go to, let's say you go to add a to do, and you start typing in an input box. Every time you type a letter, it re-renders the entire DOM if you don't do it right.
Yeah, that's of course, that's my library doesn't re-render the whole DOM. If you have placeholders anywhere, only these placeholders are re-rendered.
Right. And that's one thing that's very intriguing to me, right? That's really cool. To not have to worry about it is is a very big strength, and almost a worthy enough strength to cause someone to want to use micro components over React just because of that, right? Just because it's like I don't have to understand how to create context, use context, pass, import it, and maybe make my own hooks and in any of those kind of things that you end up doing all the time with
But
React just to
nothing
make
of
it
this is
more
necessary
pleasant.
here.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
I mean, to me, of course, it would be absolutely fantastic if you would be willing to try that out. Um, maybe I think I'll be sitting watching that stream with burning fingers to tell you what to do.
Right. And figure, you know what? You see me do a lot of things wrong, but uh, that's the cool thing about playing around with a new library is learning it and discovering on your own sometimes the the power or the better ways to do things. Um, it's taken me a long time with React to kind of fully understand it. And one of the big things that I did to better understand React is I rewrote the basic functionality of React myself at one point.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
only
handling
need a big
state.
library to rewrite it completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds nice. But I'm really really happy that you have the interest to try it all out and even stream your experience with it, because that's the one thing that I can't have. I know my library. I know that it is fast and things, that it has a certain plus to it, but I'm not every other user. I do not know how it feels to other people.
Right. And that's the thing too is the things that you take for granted that you just know because you've been doing it for many years. Um, it might not it might not come uh, it might not come so easy for me as a brand new person to it, and you'd be able to see that. And having you there actually would be great, to answer questions that come up.
I have to be there because the .md file documentation is a bit outdated, and as you go through it, you know, I would in parallel, improve the documentation to be more concise, readable, um, based on your feedback, so to say. So I would, in parallel, work on the documentation to fix the stuff that you didn't get from it.
Right.
This is just like, to me, if you would do that, that is just like co-working in my system, because from you I get the input what to make better.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty fun. Um, Now I don't claim to be a fast learner, so that's why I say I'd probably take time off stream to familiarize myself with stuff and get a general idea, and then on stream try to take what I learned off stream and apply it live.
Mm, yeah. By the way, somebody else is here, I guess. Um, if Hello, unknown person. If you have questions, if you have questions, just put them in the chat. I'm watching it, as you can see. Yeah, but um, I have to be honest, or I want to be honest. That's the most positive first reaction I got. Most people, except for those that know what I'm working on, most people um, are so stuck in their abstraction thinking that they have difficulties getting back to the basics. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, my thing is um, I've familiarized myself with React, but it's taken me a while, and from that I understand how overkill it can really be for stuff, and how it, like, taking best practices that I've had to learn over time is just time consuming, and taking away from me actually getting something to work the way I want. You know, I'm sitting there creating hooks and making sure that I'm handling context correctly, like I said, in state and all that. And by the time you do that, you're now, you've spent 15-20 minutes just making sure that it's handled correctly, and not even necessarily the getting to the logic of what I'm trying to build.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I sure hope. I sure hope. While you while you familiarize yourself with it, you get some aha moments. I sure hope that. Um,
Yeah, I think I will.
One thing that is very, very special in my library is uh, how observables and also the form elements, the form values work. Because you do not have to, you can work with my observables as if they were variables. That is, if you have an observable that is a string, you change the string and the callback will be executed. So it's very, very simple. You do not have use state and set state or something like that. You define any property as observable, and then you can attach callbacks to it. That's it. That's all of it. Or you can bind it to the DOM placeholder. DOM placeholders, by the way,
Okay.
uh, um, can be multi-level, like language dot click me text. No, the thing that I've
Hmm.
shown you before. So it doesn't matter whether you change the whole object or just a property in there. It will it will grasp that the object has changed.
So would it be too terribly difficult for you to create a new project and just implement something simple like the changing uh the language, of a button like you did in your sample project?
You already have that.
Well, yes, uh I meant from like uh displaying the like what it displaying the actual programming of it, not me just reading it or whatever, but like you just implementing it. Is
Yeah,
it
as I
shouldn't it
said,
just
it's
be like
already
code?
implemented. Let me show you. If you go to the library, it has this test page, and there is the button in there, which has exactly that functionality. Okay? So
Okay.
if you go to source, no, that's the wrong project. Let's go to the right one. If you go to this project, source, you have test.ts. It's hidden in here. But the whole code is very simple. Let me Okay, that's the translator.
Okay. Here we go.
Yeah. And the way it works is, okay, you don't need that. That is this. This is just because some minifiers didn't do it correctly. Now,
Right.
but this is the main functionality as for the state. So far, you have no property. You define two of them, two of those properties, and then you say, observe this whole object. At that point, the system will check which properties are in there and make the whole thing observable. Every property. You could as well say, observe only one thing. For example, this is optional. You can do it this way. But this is but defining the observable states first and doing observe that's a block, so to say. That's the easiest way. And then um, this is just setting up the standard translation object. You hand over the translatable, the translation over here in the constructor, and then you say that dot language as observable. Observe any change. If the language changes, you hand over control, like here, and 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 set the translation. And like here, translation isn't observable. You can bind it. You can bind it to the target HTML, the inner HTML, which in turn does the translation automatically.
Okay.
So, and then to initialize it, you say do it once. That is, notify just says do the callbacks. Okay, and that's the translation functionality, a microcomponent, and it has 30 lines of code, 34. And then how to use it is very easy. For example, this is for the button, the click counter. You observe this data, which is the DOM. You observe that. Then you add a translator object to the same DOM element. And you hand over your translatable data. And then you bind this object to the DOM. So in fact, you have two distinct functionalities that both work on the same DOM. Try this in React.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like having 100 classes that all work on the same DOM without interfering with each other. And that's about it. So here is a onClick function that only does some class handling. That's about it. Right here, I declare a function, make button. Then I use the document element registry to store it, not to have side effects with other functions, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's very easy. Make button as function, execute, and append the button to the fragment. That's about it.
And you have 1,000 of them being made.
Yeah. And it does all of this, like on this page, it does all of this in 81 milliseconds. In fact, it's not 3,000. It is 3,500 and something. Because there are system microcomponents for the placeholders in the DOM. In the
Every time
form.
you click the button, the counter goes up, and only that individual element is being
Of course,
changed.
that
That's
is
awesome.
that is the meaning of a class. You have an instance. What you do change
Right.
changes in the instance.
And there's no shadow DOM in this.
Now, unless you do it.
Right.
If you want to use the shadow DOM, you can use it, of course. I do that extensively because from my perspective, a website is comprised of a header, a footer, a content, a navbar, things like that. And these are the elements I want to see. I want to open them, and then I want to see what's in them. What I want to see is web components, not DOM components, not div, span, or something like that. I want my page, if I look at this in the Elements browser, I want it to be as concise as possible. I mean, if I roll it up here and I look at that, I know exactly what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To me, a site, if you want to use it as a framework, a site is comprised of web components. There is no more DOM in there. Usually you use the shadow DOM, shadow root to put in your HTML to have some design. Um, and also your templating and your CSS that is special to that element. You put it in there. That's it. What you want to see from a website, my system, is only the web components, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
If you look, for example, I don't even know a React site that I can point to now. But if you look at the DOM of a React site or an Angular site, I mean, I cringe. You know, to me, it is. Very, very
Yeah.
strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're. It's very. It's very. It looks very over engineered all the time.
Yeah. I mean, here is some event bubbling. I click on the innermost element and it bubbles up 2 levels and then gets stopped. I can also click on this element. This is the parent element. That is this one here. I click in here. It executes the up handler of the parent, then the grandparent, which is the outer shell up handler. In this up handler of the grandparent, it bounces back because I said so. Make a new event,
Mm-hmm.
and then it bubbles inside the DOM. I can even change that right now, right here in the console. Because I can pick the first element and say, you do not, you do stop the down handler. And then,
Okay.
yeah, I can do it right now because I have all the options, you know, like, let's do it without my change. I click on the topmost element and let's say I want to cancel only for this object, the down handler.
Mm-hmm.
Then of course, there would be no more spreading from this point, inwards.
Mm-hmm.
So what I can do is, oh, I hope I can write it now. I get it right away. Document dot query selector. That was test minus parent. It's only the first. Underscore
Okay.
underscore MC underscore on down EV. What did I want to do? I wanted to cancel that event. That is EV dot detail dot control dot stop. I hope it works. I have another handler. I've attached another custom event handler to this DOM element. When this gets the down, it will be stopped. What is the result if I click on that or on this here? Look at that. 5 times the down handler of the parent. These are these 5 elements here.
Right.
It's been called 5 times, but it only bubbled in 4 times. I mean, each of that has 5 inner elements. But since I stopped it from 1, only 20 of those have been called. You see,
Right.
I can, I can, I can work on a website. I can work on a website without having, I mean, just by being able to do everything. I can work in any project without even having access to the original system that they use. I don't even care what it is.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, all I need is access to that special page where I should attach functionality. I can do that. I can test it. I do not need their access. I do not need the development system. I can work on their website as it is. I mean, that's something.
You you could attach your library in here, and then you could create micro components all in the console on a page. You could
Right?
basically build something right in the console without ever even needing an editor, and you
Right.
could test out functionality, and then the only difference is you hit refresh, it's all gone, but you never even needed to write anything in the first place in the editor. You just imported your library and went to town and started prototyping.
Yeah. I mean, this Arcanoid project, it does the complete code bundling, including the library. So all you have to do is keep that open, copy paste the code in the in the console here. Eh, That's something. I mean,
That is pretty cool.
there is
Well, I
so
can
many.
say this: I'm excited to play around with this, and uh, it's a it's something that not too many people can say they've done. In the fact that you feel like you're in a state with the library that it's ready for you know uh, use in production projects for
It
people.
is. I think so. It is. Obviously, if you really use it, you may run into problems. But since all of the library is just a little more than 1,000 lines of code, and it's all understandable code, there is nothing heavy in there.
Have you published it to npm?
Huh?
Have you published it to npm?
Of course, yes.
Sweet. So I can actually just npm install it and
Right.
start working with it.
Yeah, right.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, that you can do right away. I mean, no problem. Nothing that I see. Maybe I mean, since I'm not you, your mileage may vary, but I'm absolutely happy that you try it. And if you run into problems, I will be there right away. I'll be taking a flight. I'll hop on a flight. No, haven't been to Michigan for a long time. I mean, you see what I mean. It's as valuable to me as it may become for you.
Yeah, I'm excited to just also just to try something new as well.
I mean, if I was you, I would simply try it in a game. I mean, you got the game engine, which you can also install via npm, I guess. So why not have functional objects? Why not have a MMORPG or something like that?
Right.
I once had a person that tried my old version of that lib, version 2, very first one that was made official. And he approached me. He said, "Oh, well, Frank, I need to do something in JavaScript. I have no idea how to do it. Can you help me?" And I said, "Yes, I can." I showed him my library, and he went off. He wanted to do some social media site, and I didn't really think about it for a long time. He kind of frequently asked me some details, but not a lot of stuff. And then half a year later, he called me on normal telephone, um, landline, and he said, "Frankie, I just wanted to call to say thank you because I've never experienced anything like this. Working with it felt like shoveling sand in bags. I made one bag, I shoveled sand in it, put it aside. I needed something new. I made another bag, shoveled sand in it, and put it aside. And I never ran into any. That was that was the biggest compliment I ever got. And that was version 2. This is now version 10. I mean, okay, micro components have been forked out of the old one, but actually, this is version 10 now. It'll be even easier now.
Yeah.
By the way, I still have his code from that page because he once gave it to me. And it looks very much like Angular. I haven't looked up my old versions for a long time. I think
Yeah.
I lost a lot in the meantime between version 2.5 or something like that. Uh, Between version 2.5 and version 7, there is a big gap, no history.
I think that I think that I could see myself using this with React only for the my familiarity with JSX and how much I enjoy programming with JSX. But I would I could use it to completely manage state and all that instead of using React.
In this, I think it covers 95, it covers 100%, of course, of a to-do MVC, and it covers, let's say, at least 80% of every project I can. I'm looking
Oh, I
forward to
think I'm
you
going
trying this.
to yeah, I'm gonna npm install it and try it out. It looks like you published a new version a day ago.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot on documentation now. Um, so and if Arcanoid shows me that something's broken, I'm obviously repairing it right away. But I haven't touched a lot of things.
How's
Oh,
the TypeScript going with it?
well, my programming is TypeScript. So if you look at
Yeah,
the,
I noticed it.
so you can go to any detail. I know that you are better in TypeScript than I am, but you can be, you will surely produce even better code than I do.
Oh, I'm 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 100% self-taught, and I don't find myself to be that grand of a programmer, to be honest. But
Yeah, but you have done something. That's a kind of understatement. You know, game engine is not nothing. Nothing to sneeze at.
I've been I've been doing I've been doing things like this. I have so many incomplete projects, and that's one thing that that I hope you understand how big of an accomplishment it is that you can say that you have something that um, you know for all intents and purposes is completed. It does what you want it to do. Whether or not you find optimizations and changes in the future or not, at this point you feel like you've completed it, and that's something to be super proud of.
I am. I have to admit, I'm pretty proud of that. When I when I had done this, I went out to my favorite bar, didn't even look who was in there, and rang the bell. Drinks for everybody. And since those people know me for have been knew me for a long time, they had to they had to stand through the times when I told them about my coding problems, which nobody was ever interested in. You know, they were all happy with me. Yeah. Also, they knew that I had my heart attached to that. Pretty expensive evening that was.
I bet.
But I loved it. I loved it. Yeah. So, anyway, for everybody that may see that later, this is my guest, Coding Butter. You will find him in streams as well. Can you add your link, your Twitch link, so that people can
Yeah.
look up yours?
Twitch.tv/codingbutter.
Yeah, thank you. So, uh, turning on my official tone, I'm very happy about the talk we had. I thank you that you found time to be my guest, and I hope it was worth it for you. And so for now, I wish you a very, very nice weekend.
Hey, thanks so much. I'll probably stream a little bit later too. Look forward to chatting with you in future streams, and I'll let you know how my initial impressions go.
Yes. Also, you said you're still thinking about structuring, like which goes in where. Maybe we can
Yeah,
have a talk about that. So, making your library the theme of a talk, that would be very nice. Also, I would love to try it out.
yeah, yeah. Especially if I can kind of get the restructure to some things to make more sense. And I think that'd be pretty cool. We definitely could do that.
Okay, great. This 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 looks and sounds very promising. So for
Yes.
now, I would like to say goodbye. Everybody else have a nice weekend, and you also, of course. Um, and let's meet next time.
Sure. You have a great day, Frank.
Yeah, you too. Bye bye.
Bye.